And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. They're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic provider. They do an absolutely fantastic job. They have offices all over Northeast Florida, from Riverside, North Side, South Side, the beaches, St. John's. My wife has had work done there. I've had work done there. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. We continue to thank them for their support of the Gator Bytes podcast. He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. And I got to tell you.
No, we're not starting there.
No, you didn't stick to the script.
Yeah, that's the first thing.
Okay.
You messed up the script. You didn't mess it up. You changed it, which is we need to be consulted before you do that. But the more important thing is, for the people listening at home, I was in here working on the drill.
Yes.
Hack comes in and changes the chairs around so that he looks taller.
I do, yes. Well, that's what happens when you get here. Oh, I don't know. You get a text message at 10 o'clock at night when you do a Hacker After Dark show. Hey, man, can you be there at 8:20? Sure, because I'm helping out a friend, right? So I show up at 8:19, and I look around, and I was the only person here for 20 minutes. So I took that luxury to change the chairs while I was waiting for you guys to arrive.
It is tragic that we're making Hacker work more than 3 hours a day.
It is, man. I got a lot going on. Speaking of that, though, we've had a lot of former Gators on my show this week. We had Major Wright, Ahmad Black, Dexter McNabb from way back in the day. Really enjoyed that conversation. He's actually a high school principal now up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So Gator fans, if you want to hear from any of those former players, you can go to 1010XL.com in the on-demand section. Denny Thompson with 6 points. I guess the big news in the quarterback world, Arch Manning to Texas. We'll get into Florida stuff in a moment, but clearly need to talk about that. What does Texas get with Arch Manning? How surprised were you that he made the announcement yesterday?
I'm not surprised at all that he's going to Texas, but that's the question. Nobody really knows what they're getting. This class is really top-heavy. If you look at the two California kids, Malachi and Nico, who are at USC and Tennessee, Jaden Rashada is also from California. Marcus Stokes from here.
Jalen Rashada, Florida fans hope they're involved in.
Yeah.
News comes out yesterday, though. Maybe Miami is his leader now.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to end up in Florida. I don't think that's going to happen. Florida has a backup plan that I can't get into. But
that's interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't think anybody really knows what Arch is. He's playing smaller school football in Louisiana.
Kind of like Will Greer did, right, in North Carolina.
Yeah, but Arch hasn't even really done the circuit. Like I mean, I've been at Elite 11 a couple times this year, and he hasn't been there. There's very few people that have actually just seen him throw. Obviously, the schools have. He's thrown for them. Physically, he's impressive. Mm-hmm. He's physically really developed. If you look at his film, he can make all the throws. But I don't think anybody really knows. Like the two California kids are playing major high school football. They've been doing it since their sophomore year.
I brought this up last night. If his name was Arch Thompson or Arch Green or Arch Marsh.
Yeah, he'd still be top 5.
He would be.
Absolutely.
The last name Manning's not helping him.
Well, I'm sure it helps. Like
Arch Marsh would have a perfect rating.
Arch Marsh would be a good name.
Here's where it helps him. It helps him whenever he starts a Twitter account yesterday and gets 50,000 followers. I don't know what he's at. He was at 40-something thousand last night. Literally is following 0, which I think is such a flex.
Yeah, I heard you. Cool. I heard you driving in today that he has 0 followers.
Yeah.
The only other guy I know that does that is Skip Bayless.
Really?
Skip Bayless does that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the Manning name helps. But I don't know. I mean, he could be. If he's anything like anybody in the family, he's going to be fantastic.
Right.
I mean, so it's.
And for people that don't know, we think they do, but he's not Eli's son. He's not Peyton's son. That's Uncle Eli and Uncle Peyton.
Right.
He's Cooper's son.
Who was the best athlete out of all of them.
Yeah.
Just not a quarterback.
Surprised he didn't end up in the Southeastern Conference, albeit Texas will get there eventually. But Alabama, Georgia, they seem to be in play. Obviously, it didn't work out in the end.
I think it had, if I'm not mistaken, and I hate to say this without knowing 100%, isn't he doing something like an analyst or something at Texas?
Oh, is it the former Duke coach, David Cutcliffe?
And they've got a really good relationship with the Manning family.
Yeah, he coached Eli at Ole Miss.
Right, and then even when he was at Duke, that's where the Mannings would go to throw. So from that aspect, no, I'm not surprised. And of course, Texas is Texas. Texas is big boy football.
And you kind of knew it because I think Arch Manning's teammate and like one of his best buddies committed to Texas a couple of days ago. So when that happened, you kind of knew that maybe the wheels were in motion. Bringing it to the Gators. And I know what you're going to say because I know what you said a couple of weeks ago when I brought this up. I also know what you said 10 minutes ago before we started this podcast, but I'm going to bring it on air now. The Gator fans are getting a little bit concerned, at least the ones I see on social media. A lot of commitments around the country. Florida flipped a UCF commit, but he was 4-star defensive end. I mean, it's a good get for Florida, but they're also starting to miss out on guys, again, kind of like they did last year. Any concern with you at this point that maybe we have a repeat of last year? Florida's hat is on the table for a lot of these guys. They're in the Final 5 or Final 3, but they ultimately do not choose to come to Florida.
I mean, concern? No. Would I like to have them commit? Yeah. I think everybody would. Nobody's signed anything yet.
Right.
I mean, how many kids have you seen put, I'm 1,000% committed, and then 3 months later, it's after much thought and consideration, it's God's plan that I decommit from whatever.
When I covered recruiting for Gridiron, it was striking how many guys told me, I'm done.
Yep.
No, nothing else. Won't take any other visits. A month later, decommitment and commit somewhere else.
So, I mean, the feedback I'm getting from kids, from recruits, is that Florida feels different than most. So it's, there's the Georgia. We've talked about this. There's Georgia, Alabama. You go to these campuses, and you're going to get great treatment. It's going to be awesome. Florida wasn't there. They're there now, right? So if now all of a sudden, if a kid commits to Miami or Alabama or Clemson or something like that, and then 3 months later another position guy commits there too that plays the same position, or 3 months later Florida started off really well and the facilities are fantastic once they open them and all that kind of stuff, they'll come back around for some of these guys. Like I'll be, if we get to early signing day and we got the same issue, I'll be concerned then. But I never get concerned from a recruiting standpoint until signing day.
Well, it's a good news, bad news situation. You look at 24/7 Sports, which is the one I like, and again, rankings are about like toilet paper until signing day, but fans like them, so we'll go with it. Florida's number 40 on this list right now. 40. But you look at the teams right around them. LSU's 41, Michigan's 39, Alabama's 38, Oklahoma's 37. So they're all in the same boat.
Here's my issue, though. Look at the averages for those teams. I don't know what Florida's is for their average player, the ranking, but probably somewhere in that 86 to 89 range.
88.6.
What's Alabama, 94?
96.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I look at, quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And if you look at Alabama, you look at Georgia, you look at Ohio State, you look at, used to be Clemson, not so much anymore. Those averages are crazy. They're averaging a 4.5 star for every recruit, right? Where Florida's at that 3.5. And there's people listening that are going to say, well, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. But that's what everybody's getting upset about. Everybody's getting upset about these rankings. So I don't know, however you want to look at it, but my advice would be to not look at it until December.
Florida flipped Isaiah Nixon out of Lakewood or out of St. Petersburg, Lakewood High School.
They did it easily, too.
Yeah, and he was a UCF commitment. You say UCF. Well, Isaiah Nixon's a top 200 player nationally, according to 24/7. He's their highest-ranked commit right now. We know Najee Harris from IMG Academy, Creed Whittemore, Trent Whittemore's little brother, Bryce Lovett. I mean, they got some. Creed. Yeah. I mean, they got some good players, but I think the frustrating thing is Florida fans every weekend see this great visitor list, and they see all these guys saying Florida's in the lead for me. You just got to be patient a little bit. Patience is a virtue.
If you go to recruiting boards, which I would never suggest anybody do, message boards are.
Cesspool.
Yeah, if you go to like Georgia's or you go to Ohio State, you go to Alabama's, they're griping about the same things.
Yeah, every
fan base is griping about the same thing. Georgia was up in arms yesterday over Arch. Georgia's known they weren't getting Arch for a week, at least, right? Like, I mean, you can't get them all, right? And so what you do is you hope with each class that you find 2 or 3 plug and play guys that can come in and make a contribution now. And then eventually out of that class, you get, 10 starters. And if you just keep doing that, you're probably going to be pretty good. Where you get in a mess is when, like, you look up in a whole class, so much like a draft class, you look at it and go, oh, that was a waste. And then you're a year behind. But if you're getting kids that you want that play the style of football that matches with what you want to do, that's much more important than going and getting the 5-star. If you can get those kids and you can litter in a couple transfer portal guys, you're going to be fine.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists brings it to you. Their website is se-ortho.com. Remember, every Thursday morning with Jeff and Dan, you get the good doctor, Kevin Murphy of Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. He breaks down injuries in the world of sports. se-ortho.com for the good folks at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. All right. Rebuild in the SEC West versus rebuild in the SEC East. Brian Kelly inheriting a national power at LSU that, albeit, looks like in a rebuild in 2022. Billy Napier coming into Florida in 2022 in the midst of a rebuild as well. Who's going to have the easier time? Who's further ahead right now? How would you assess Florida, LSU, both in rebuild mode?
That's tough. I mean, I think the easy answer is that Kelly's ahead.
Based on the roster he inherited?
Right. Based on the roster, I think he's recruiting fairly well right now. But they're in the West.
Yeah.
And, you look up and, you've got, Texas A&M and Alabama and now Arkansas. And so it's hard to imagine LSU going through the West without 2 or 3 losses. Because Auburn's always going to sneak up on somebody. Every single year, they're going to win 2 they shouldn't.
I was talking to the Auburn play-by-play guy earlier this week because we were talking about Jabari Smith before he did not get drafted by Orlando. I thought he was. That's why I was talking to him. Auburn's been ridiculously quiet this offseason. You've had Jimbo and Nick Saban and their soap opera. Sam Pittman gets an extension. Lane Kiffin's on Twitter every day.
They haven't been quiet.
Well, I know, but you just you haven't heard a lot about
got
him.
fired.
Well, no, right, but that was 5 months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this entire offseason, you hear about everybody else in the West. Auburn's just kind of hanging out there. Not a whole lot happening.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to be. They got their quarterback competition's really interesting. They literally have 4 guys that it could be any of the 4.
They got the former A&M guy.
Yep.
Calzada, right? Yeah.
Yep. They got Finley.
Yeah, Finley.
Former LSU guy, Finley. Holden Gerner, who's one of our guys that's a true freshman. Then I'm missing. Oh, Robbie Ashford, the kid that was at Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So they got 3 portal guys and then a guy they signed. So I think once they get that settled and you see whoever it is and how they're playing, the roster around them is pretty decent. So they're going to win a couple they shouldn't. They do every year. They're going to be okay. They're going to be like a 6, 7, 8 win team. But that West is just brutal, man. Well, and really, I mean, if you look at the East now, and this is where I was going with the Napier v. Kelly, it's easy to say that about the West, but in the East now, you've got Tennessee coming back. You've got Kentucky. You've got Georgia, right? I mean, it's not that much easier. You just don't have Alabama.
I mean, preseason magazines are what they are. I enjoy reading them. I enjoy the conversation that spars from them. Athlon and Lindy's are both out. Did you see these already?
No.
Florida picked 4th in the East in both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that. I would think if you picked them anywhere else, you'd have to really explain yourself.
But we're talking to Gator fans right now. Do you think Gator fans fully understand that Florida might have problems in 2022?
Well, I think what's exciting is I think people get that, but there's enough at Florida to where they could also make a run.
Yeah.
Right? Like they could beat Utah. Well, they could beat Kentucky. They could beat Tennessee. The only game that you look at and you go, is Georgia.
My thought is starting 22, I think they can play with a lot of teams. Players 23 through 60 is where Florida's going to have problems.
And that's why I said that about Georgia. I mean, I don't know about the depth at Tennessee, but I can't think it's much better than what it is at Florida. I don't know about the depth at Kentucky, but I can't think it's much better. You look at all of those, and especially those 3, and it's quarterback play, right? It's out of those 3, out of Tennessee, Florida, and Kentucky, you have 3 quarterbacks who are probably going to be first or second round picks, right? So it's like, which one of those quarterbacks gets the hottest earliest, and who can build a system around that guy and you may end up sweeping that, that little trifecta of Tennessee, Kentucky, which puts you at number 2.
And, of course, that happens in the first month of the year.
Right.
The Florida season will be, albeit decided by the 1st of October.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference, though, between like this and what last year. Last year when they lost 3, it was like, okay, let's get out of here. This year it's a new staff, it's a new energy. It's going to be an exciting brand of football. So you're going to have something to watch for because you're looking at what the future holds.
No, I agree with that.
So I think it will keep. But I think Florida comes out of those first 4 3-1.
Whew. I would sign on the dotted line for that. Which one do they lose?
I don't know. I think when you look at, what is it? The first 4 is Utah, USF.
Utah, Kentucky, USF, Tennessee.
Yeah, I think they come out 3-1. I don't know which one's the one, but I think 15 is that much of a difference maker.
See, the way I'm looking at it, and again, maybe this is glass half empty, you're not as good as Utah. If you win that game, it's because it's in Gainesville. If you went to Salt Lake City, you'd probably get boat raced. Because it's in Gainesville, I think you have a fighting chance. Kentucky, I think, is kind of similar. I don't know if you win in Lexington. Because it's in Gainesville, you got maybe a better than fighting chance. You're going to beat USF, and Tennessee's going to be a snake pit. Those people on Rocky Top, that's probably going to be a night game on ESPN. They are going to be ready for the Florida Gators because of all the beatings Florida has given them over the better part of the last 2 decades.
Let me play devil's advocate with you. I don't know enough about Utah and Kentucky. I'm just going to put it out there to be able to say if they were to play there or at a neutral site that those teams are better than Florida.
I know Utah won the Pac-12 and they have like 18 returning starters.
Right. I think a lot of people could have won the Pac-12 last year.
Okay, fair enough.
Right? I think there's probably 6 SEC teams that could have won the Pac-12. Just wasn't very good last year. And then Kentucky, when you look at that Kentucky game last year, that was maybe the worst Florida game I've watched since the old Mississippi State debacles when Spurrier was there. Remember those?
Yeah.
Like that.
Or the Thursday night game in 1992 with Mississippi State. They could never win in Starkville.
That's what that looked like to me. So
they had
I can't
50 false start penalties.
Right. I can't sit here and go, well, just Kentucky's just better. I can't. Will Levis is legit. And then Tennessee, I refuse just based on the strength that they haven't beaten Florida in how many years?
They beat them once in the last 16 or 17 years.
Right. And my son is 20 years old.
They won in 2016, and before that, they had not won since 2004.
Yeah, the Will Hoyt game.
So I can't just sit here and say that doesn't matter. I can't say that Tennessee's passed them up. I just can't.
My point is, and right, I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't think Kentucky's better than Florida. I don't think Florida's better than Kentucky. I think they're very even. That's why, to me, that game matters where it's played. That's why if it was in Lexington, I would lean Kentucky. Because it's in Gainesville, I'm leaning Florida. Same thing with Tennessee. Because you have to go to Knoxville. To me, that's going to be tough. If Tennessee had to come to the Swamp, I would lean Florida.
So let me ask you this. So we're in Jacksonville, so we talk a lot of Jags football. And we've all said just the fact that it's highly functioning down there right now and not a debacle probably adds 3 or 4 wins to the Jags schedule. A very similar thing, by the way, can be said in Gainesville because it was a complete cluster last year. That was not an ideal situation to be a student athlete in. How much does that matter? Because it's the opposite now. You go down there now, and it is a completely different energy. And yes, energy means victories. That's just what it is. Like if you go to work every single day and you're getting better every single day, then you should win extra games. That's what's happening down there. Last year, it was like a lot of people were checked out.
Yeah,
a lot of people. Stories are crazy, right? So I just don't know that we can judge. You're talking about a Florida team that came off of back-to-back New Year's Six Bowls, back-to-back 10-win seasons that had one bad year. And it was largely because of the dysfunction inside the hallways, right? So why are we automatically assuming that that's what we're going to be instead of the culture or the players and the talent that won 10 games the 2 years previous?
No, because I think you look at the roster, all right? Look at the tight end position. Their best tight end is Keon Zipperer. I mean, nothing against Keon Zipperer. He just hadn't played a whole lot. That's their starting tight end. Their wide receivers, Justin Shorter, Xavier Henderson, Trent Whittemore. I mean, when you have to replace Kyle Pitts and Trevon Grimes and Kadarius Toney and Jacob Copeland over a 2-year stretch, eventually it's going to catch up with you.
Jacob Copeland?
Yeah, Jacob Copeland on this team would be the best receiver they got, wouldn't he?
If Jacob Copeland was there, we'd still be saying that the receivers are not great.
Well, maybe, but because he's not there.
Because we said it last year and he was there.
Because he's not there, it's even more of a problem.
I got you.
Offensive line, I have no idea.
Offensive line's better.
Osiris Torrance could be a very good player. I have no idea.
The defensive dysfunction under Grantham was real.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, I'm not sitting here saying they're going to win 10 games. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think every fan base does this. You automatically go to the negative first. You look at, where are the position groups? Like you bring up tight end. Yeah, their tight end's worse because they had a generational tight end. Well, it's not like they stacked them up. It was Pitts.
But I like Kamari Gamble, and for whatever reason, he decided to leave.
Yeah, I mean, but again, we're talking about Pitts.
Right.
Like, I mean, whatever their tight end room is now is probably about as good as it's been in the history of Florida, with the exception of Pitts. Right? And then you look at the receivers. I can remember us doing podcasts. I remember doing other people's shows where the receiver position has been talked about for like 5 years. Are they going to be any good?
That's true.
Right? And so
that's true. Look, you're right about that.
I don't know. And I saw Justin Shorter the other day. He looks fantastic. He's huge. Right? He looks good. He's moving well. I don't know. I'm going to take the approach of if 15 has the year that he should have, they could win 9 or 10 games. If he doesn't, then, yeah, they can win 6, 7.
But I love the running back room.
Running back room is probably the best it's been in a long time,
and
as a whole.
Now, we're assuming a lot about Lingard and Bowman. You know, you got Naquan Wright, and you're assuming the young man from Louisiana.
Well, I think if you go by the spring game, you shouldn't really expect too much out of Lingard and Bowman. They featured the other guys more.
Yeah.
And they look good.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I know that's a small sampling, but, for me, it's a game of personnel. And if they can figure out how to get the mismatches they want with the threat of having a running quarterback in addition to that, they're going to be a hard offense to start.
And I'm looking at positives as well on the defense. You arguably have 2 first-rounders on the D-line with Dexter and Brenton Cox.
Yep.
In fact, Brenton Cox, CBS released their top 50 prospects for the 2023 draft. Brenton Cox, they had ahead of Anthony Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
They had Brenton Cox 42, Anthony Richardson 43.
Brent had him that low?
Yeah.
Who was this?
It was CBS. And Josh Edwards was the guy that did it. He's a buddy. I had him on the show, and he said, look, I understand what everybody else is doing, meaning Kuiper and McShay have Richardson in the top 15. He goes back to the 64 pass attempts and the 59% completion. He just wants to see it before he puts Richardson in his top 20.
Everybody wants to see it.
Well, no, because Kuiper and McShay obviously don't need to see it.
Kuiper and McShay have been doing this forever. They're doing what NFL teams do. The kid is 6'5", 240, and is going to go 4.4. Like, what do you need to see?
Well,
hey, come on.
See more than 64 pass attempts, I guess. You forget about that. People that say Anthony Richardson. He started one game, right, in his career.
No, I get it. I need to see it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying.
You've trained the kid for 5 years.
Right. I need to see it. But as far as, like, if you're going to rank the players the way the NFL ranks them, then, yeah, that's absurd to have both of them that low.
But that's so you think Brenton Cox is...
Brenton Cox is a dog. He is a freak.
Yeah.
Like, this dude is... If he plays well, he's top 15.
Are we surprised he came back?
A little bit.
I was, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Because, I mean, I think he would have pushed first or second last year.
Yeah.
Round. Right? But, I mean, I don't know.
Maybe he figures with Zach Carter gone, he's going to be like the guy now. So he'll up his draft stock even more.
Yeah.
I'm happy he's back. Don't get me wrong. Trey Dean is back. They got guys on that defense that have played a ton of football in a Gator uniform.
Just not very good football.
Well, Trey Dean's okay.
I'm just talking about collectively.
Right.
I mean, I think defense is such a confidence thing, too.
When you forget, too, Jason Marshall at one corner, the Georgia transfer at the other corner.
That's what I'm saying. When you really start digging down, and to your point earlier, they don't have the depth. But when you really start digging down, you can make the argument for them to be fourth in the East or second in the East. Like, and you could make a legit argument for either way and not be wrong.
I'm going to get to Anthony Richardson as we wrap up. Before there, are they in the same atmosphere as Georgia right now?
No.
So that's amazing. So Georgia had 15 guys drafted, the most in the history of the common draft, and there's no one in the East in the same atmosphere as them, even though they have to replace all that talent.
Well, can Florida beat Georgia? Yes. Are they in the same atmosphere? No. And this is what I mean by that. Florida can have a game. And, again, we're going to talk about Anthony, but he is kind of an equalizer, right? So if he goes in that game and you look up and he's got 200 passing and 160 rushing,
right,
you're in it.
Yeah.
But what you said earlier, Georgia's deep at every single position, right? And that plays in late October.
5-star leaves, a 5-star comes in.
That's right. And so if you're talking about week 1, maybe it's not as big of a deal. But when you start talking about, what is that, week 8?
Yeah.
Week 9? Then, yeah.
The young Georgia kids will have experience by then.
It probably comes into play. You probably have had some injuries. There's been some attrition. And then that depth starts to come into play. Now, if Florida stays completely healthy, then, yeah, they're in the same atmosphere. But, I mean, when we're talking about recruiting early, that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about the atmosphere of, okay, I don't know, what's Georgia's average on there? It's probably as high as what Alabama's is.
Yeah.
Like, you got to start pulling multitudes of those type of players.
Yeah, Georgia's a 93 average, while Florida's at an 88 according to these rankings. Today's Gator Bytes podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for any orthopedic injury or concern. Again, their website, se-ortho.com. They have offices all over Northeast Florida, including Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, St. John's, among many others. And again, thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for their continued support of the Gator Bytes podcast. As we wrap it up, Anthony Richardson, we've talked a lot about him. You've trained him for 5 years. You are the guy when it comes to Anthony Richardson and knowing what's going on with him. He's at the Manning passing camp right now.
He is. He left from here, actually. He was in, I don't know, someday this week. I've lost count of the days. We had some very specific things we wanted to get to with Anthony this offseason, like mechanically. We've gotten to him.
And I hope, and again, we say this every week. And I know we have a different audience every week, but I think it's worth repeating for people that just join us. You work with Anthony Richardson like one-on-one on mechanics. You train the Gators starting quarterback, you, Denny Thompson. So when you listen to what Denny's saying, he trains the kid pretty much on a weekly basis.
Yeah, we've put a ton of resources into Anthony this year. We've worked with him the way we work with our NFL guys. Had multiple people come look at him, everything from the way he's built to the way he moves to what are the potential injury issues? Like, if you have a reoccurring injury, there's usually like a makeup in your body that's causing that. So you got to make changes. So we've done all of that this year, but specifically mechanically, there were 2 or 3 things that we really wanted to get into, and we have. And he's at a different level throwing the ball right now. And my guess is you're going to hear a lot about him this weekend at Manning. Because the Manning Passing Academy is really for high school kids, but they bring in the top college quarterbacks, and they have like competitions, and he's not going to do a lot of those. But he's going to be able to throw enough for people to go, oh my gosh, like this guy absolutely spins it. And that's where he's at right now. He's super accurate. Nobody's ever questioned his arm strength. His release is quicker. It's more efficient. He just looks good, man.
This isn't fair to the kid because you should never critique somebody for this, but I would be lying if I didn't have Gators season ticket holders that are friends of mine that when they know I'm doing the podcast with you, they are curious soft tissue issues in the past. Now, you brought that up when you said reoccurring injuries. I mean, if Anthony Richardson gets hurt this year, the Gator season is curtains. It's done. Where are we, in your opinion, as much as you can get into? Do you think that soft tissue injuries are a thing of the past for Anthony Richardson?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think it's a thing of the past for anybody that's as explosive as he is. I mean, the human body, you put a lot of stress on the human body when you move the way he does at his size. I think some of the issues have been identified as to why they were happening. And, he feels better and he's more explosive and he's more fluid than he's ever been. But I think that's always going to be a concern for somebody like Anthony Richardson until he gets a little bit older. I mean, you think like Fred Taylor.
Yeah.
Fred Taylor kind of grew out of that, right? But there was nothing Fred Taylor was doing to cause the soft tissue injuries. There's nothing Anthony's doing to cause these other than he's a freak of an athlete, and that's just a ton of force that's constantly being put on your body when you're 240 running like
Right,
that.
you can train till you're blue in the face. I mean, hamstrings are hamstrings. Sometimes there are pulls and strains.
And the Gator medical staff and strength staff has done a really good job with him this year of identifying those issues, working on those issues, trying to fix those issues. But at the end of the day, when you're in front of 90,000 and you want to go 100%, you're going to go 100%. And how does your body hold up through that? And so I think that's going to be the interesting thing, is to see how they use Anthony. If you look at the spring game, they kept him in the pocket, right? I think that's where he should be. I mean, yeah, run quarterback power occasionally, but I think where Anthony could do damage is if you let him try to throw the ball 35 times, and if on 10 of those he sees a seam and takes off.
Right.
Right. And then that's one of those that I can see a seam, I can go get 20, I can get down, let's play the next play. But when you've got a quarterback sweep, you've got a quarterback power, like that's force being met, and that is a play design for you to beat somebody to a place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's just a different mentality than, oh, there's an opening, they're in man coverage, I see their backs, let me take off and go scoop up 20.
I mean, competitors are competitors. How much of an emphasis do you believe Florida has, or even you and your staff at 6 points? Anthony, get out of bounds. Get down.
We've never talked about it.
Never talked about it. Really?
No, there's guys we will talk about it. Anthony is hella competitive, and he knows what his strengths are. And so he's a grown man. If you want to get out of bounds, get out of bounds. If you want to embarrass dude in front of his mom, go embarrass him.
Yeah, I imagine there's not a lot of corners or safeties that would want a 6'5", 240-pound Anthony Richardson running full speed at them.
No, and you don't, you worry about knees and stuff like that at that. But, I'm sure I don't know what Florida's told him. I'm sure as they get closer, they're probably going to preach that to him a little bit, but it'll never come out of my mouth.
He is Denny Thompson, 6 points. You get him all over 1010XL. I'm the Hacker, Ryan Green. You get me weeknights on Hacker After Dark. We'll be back the next time we talk to you, month of July. How about that? Next time we're here, it'll be the month of July, SEC Media Days.
Wow.
We'll only be a couple of weeks away, and fall camp will be less than a month away. Thank you for watching and listening to Gator Bytes, brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists on the 1010XL.com podcast network and on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.